Hello once again, you denizens of the dark. You've decided to come forth to the sticky place. The place where the ichor drips and you sit in the middle of it, swimming as if you were a mad child. Yes. I just realized I almost went into Bane there. Yes. Yes. Welcome once again to the Lurkers in the lobby. As usual, it is I, Gruffy, your host, and as usual, I have with me a man all slim and sticky. It is...
Oh god, it's so sticky. I'm so sticky. It's me, Andy, Cobra Commander TFW.
You've been rolling in the jam again, haven't you, Andy?
I have. I've been trying to get people, ladies stuck on me. I thought people, but then I thought, nah, I'm going to be greedy and just want the ladies to get stuck on me.
I like the idea you want people stuck on you.
Yeah,
I'm covered in glue!
I'm like a person made of that sticky fly paper. Don't let me go to the beach or I'll become Sandman again.
I remember the day I created fly paper.
Oh, the ultimate villain for Spider-Man to face.
Man. I thought Spider-Man needed some kind of villain. One that he wouldn't be able to fight against. So after punching a puppy in the face a couple of times, I came up with Flypaper Boy.
I was hoping Stanley would have smoked the puppy.
After drinking the puppy's blood. But we are not alone. As usual, we have dragged a third denizen of the dark into our little lobby to see how his mind can withstand the horrific renderings of the media of H.P. Lovecraft. This person is...
Hi, it's Colin, otherwise known as Cardcore Gamer.
Hello there.
Hello.
Hello. And how are you today, sir?
Not bad. With the superhero theme going on, I've been trying to construct a costume of a giant cup so that I might become a nemesis of a spider or other insect-based villain. Only problem is I'll need a sidekick who's a large piece of paper. But
what's Mikey doing these days? Andy, what's Mikey doing these days?
I don't know. He's away in Nottingham, like, murdering people, I think.
Oh. Would he like to be a large piece of paper?
I mean, do we really care what Mikey wants? We'll just make him
We have a sidekick for you. We have a sidekick.
Don't worry about it.
Fairly local, too. He's just one town over.
Fantastic.
As long as you have some chemical waste, just pour it on him while he's asleep and throw paper at him, and, science will do the rest.
Roofies. What?
Yep.
So we have gathered here today to watch and discuss and talk about Whisper in the Darkness, which was written originally in 1931, which was a long time ago. Long time ago. It was first published in Weird Tales. Similar in themes to The Killer Out of Space, as it is a blend of horror and science fiction, which Lovecraft's writing was trying to be at this point. It makes numerous references to the Cthulhu mythos, but the story itself is not a central part. It reflects the shift in Lovecraft's writing at this time towards the science fiction element, and the story introduces, let's just say, an interesting race of fungoid creatures in the Mygo.
Is it Mygo? I thought it was Migo. Migo?
There's a long-running joke.
You can go if you like.
Damn it! There's a long-running joke between me and my brother of me go, I go, we go. And it all turns into
I have the same joke and or problem occasionally. With the board games thing, obviously, if you're not paying attention, is it my go? And I have a friend that's keeping him off every single time. I think he's managed to control this urge. It's now just a bit of a twitch rather than vocalized, but yeah, it's a difficult one.
I really wish I'd thought of that one. Damn it!
It's yours for free.
My favourite gaming one was 3 people being chased by a werewolf, and they run into a warehouse, and one of the people shouted, "I'm not going in there." Why not? It's a warehouse. What's it going to turn into? No, that's not. No. Oh dear.
Oh dear, indeed.
So anyhow, we're going to be talking about Whisper in the Darkness, but first, before we do that, I have to take our guest firmly by the shoulders, look him stare in the eye, and I have to ask him a simple question. Sir Colin, how did you come across the works of H.P. Lovecraft?
It was actually through my brother. My brother went to university, and when he came back, he dropped off a whole bunch of stuff at my parents' house before moving out again. And in amongst his books, there were a couple of the old anthologies, there were three of them. There was one that was the sort of shorter stories, one that was the longer ones, and there was a kind of middling book that just seemed to be everything else. And I had 2 out of 3 of those. So I got reading those, eventually tracked down the third book, and it all kind of went from there, really.
So you unfortunately are not like Jai, have some story where you scared the living shit out of yourself with a statue. Seriously, ask him about it. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Mm. I'm just going to let that one. Well, you could just go back to the Dagon. Yeah,
no,
Dagon.
Yes, Dagon. Yeah.
Just go back to the Dagon episode. He'll tell you all about it there. From the past. Yeah. Yeah, that's how we roll.
Science.
The power of science. Besides, I am now under the impression that Jai is in fact a 300-year-old alchemist. So,
I could see that. That makes sense.
well, his name on the internet is Jai D, which is akin to John Dee, the famous alchemist. Jai likes science over magic.
My God.
Yeah.
This is terrifyingly on theme, isn't it?
Yes. Anyhow, should we move on then?
Yeah.
Whisper in the Darkness was made in 2011 by the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society. It was shot using a mythoscope, which is a blend of vintage and modern filmmaking techniques to make it look like it was made in the 1930s, much like the Call of Cthulhu, which we started doing these shows with. The filmmakers used this to intend to capture the look of films such as Dracula, Frankenstein, and King Kong. It's up to us now to find out if we feel that way. Do we think it's like King Kong?
I think King Kong was the first thing that came to mind, but mainly because it starts with a picture of some trees, and that put a jungly thing in my head.
I like the idea of a jungle theme.
Yeah, if you opened up my skull and looked around inside, there was actually a jungle theme in there.
I want to ride the brain tiger. Ride the brain tiger.
That sounds like an awesome ride for Disney World.
Welcome to Disney, where we remove your brains and put them in tigers. This is Hitler. He's in a monkey. Right, so let's move on, and we are going to press play on Whisper in the Darkness in...
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
It's very dark.
Balloon!
Any film that starts off with a tiny model Zeppelin automatically becomes my favourite thing ever.
I like the fact that Zeppelin's flying through space as well.
Space
Zeppelin.
Yeah, well, you know how Zeppelins were amazing and successful. You know, in the future, we just made them for space. Because that's how space works.
One thing I definitely like about this, right from the off, is the theme. The music's just... That's pretty much spot on. And it reminds me, when you're watching these old films and you sort of wait for them to begin, whereas new films, it's all, lots of cameras whizzing around and letters exploding in your eyes. And it's quite nice in a way to have this sort of gentle introduction where you just you're forced to sit and read everybody who is involved.
Do we know if the score's done by the same person that did Call of Cthulhu?
As far as I'm aware, it's a lot of the same people came back, including Matt Frey, who was in Call of Cthulhu, the Man.
Yes, my friend Chris, or the guy who looks like my friend Chris.
Yes, he is. In this, he plays Albert Wilmarth, who we'll get to. As far as I'm aware, it is pretty much exactly the same team of people.
Well, that would make sense. It's higher quality, I would say, straight off the bat than Call of Cthulhu.
Yes, I think the fact that this has a story to it rather than a collection of mini stories with a overarching bridge helps that as well. It's a lot easier to make a film that is a story.
Certainly.
Than it is to make this strange anthology. The problem with Call of Cthulhu always was that it is, in its essence, unfilmable. Didn't stop them from filming it and making a very, very good film out of it. But then you ask the question, how much of a film is it?
You need to take a lot of liberties, I think, if you really want to make a somewhat similar Call of Cthulhu movie.
Yeah, but you can never make a big Hollywood budget out of it.
No.
This is always the danger of adaptations as well, or if not danger, challenge, I suppose, in that when you're trying to adapt something, especially a short story, it's how much do you change and how much do you add to try and convert it into a script.
Mm-hmm.
Or I suppose in the terms of World War C, do we even care?
Nope, not even slightly.
Exactly.
That film can... Well, I actually think the best adaptation of book into movie is Rambo.
Okay.
because it got the feel and the themes of the book across, if not necessarily the exact same story.
Mm.
This is one thing I found a little strange with this film, which is kind of illustrated in that first sequence there, which is I lost track sometimes of whether we're supposed to know that it's day or night.
Yes. Now, this is actually a problem with the filmmaking technique. A lot of black and white films wouldn't shoot at night.
Makes sense.
What they would do is they'd put a small filter over the front of the camera and to make it look a little bit darker, even though you can see the clouds and the sun.
Yeah.
It's that
so
suspension
day for night.
It's that suspension of disbelief that they used back then, especially in the sort of 30s and 40s, where filmmaking was still a very new media that people were playing with, and I think people got away with it a lot more. If you watch a lot of Nosferatu, the not Fritz Lang, what's his name?
F.W. Murnau.
Yeah, thank you. All I could think there was Fritz Lang, and it just wasn't leaving my
Yeah.
head at all. It's like,
Begins with an F. It's German.
somewhere Becca is shouting at me, "It's not Fritz Lang!" A lot of that film is shot during the day, and you can see plainly that it's daytime.
One thing that, well, to start with, when I saw the mythoscope thing, I actually thought that was just like an affectation. I didn't know it was a real thing.
It
I
is.
thought they were just using a fancy word. But
It is a real thing, and I'm fairly convinced, because I can't find any other company that's used it, it was invented by the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society.
oh right,
Awesome.
It's hang on a sec. Let me just pull up some info here, because I do have it. Yep. Under its mythoscope and mythophone. Mythoscope is how it makes its films. Mythophone is how it does its audio. The Dark Adventure Radio Theatre.
one thing I thought was odd about this is, while you can recreate the look of an old film, that's something I read somewhere where you get certain people their face belongs in a certain era.
Yes.
Yeah.
They seem to have managed to pick people in this who just look right for the time.
I would.
Some of it will be haircut, some of it will be clothes and makeup and so on, but just the faces they've got in this film just seem to weirdly fit.
Well, Matt Freuer he's a man out of time. He's the guy who plays Wilbur. He has the face and mannerisms of the man of the time. He does not look like somebody who lives now at all, which I think is a really interesting thing. There are a couple of people in this which are not as of the time, shall we say.
Yeah.
And when they do turn up, they stick out like a sore thumb. It's quite a strange one.
But bless them, you can't blame them too much.
Oh, right. No, you can't blame them for
You
their
can
face.
blame them for their face.
Just
Clearly
point.
disagree on this point.
Are you saying that they should have taken a baseball bat to those people's faces until they fit the movie?
I think people are uglier in the past necessarily.
Well, it's just a cheaper form of plastic surgery. You know, you're just reshaping their skull.
Well, yes, I suppose so.
Yeah.
So,
Walk in with something the size of a shoebox. Put this on your head. Why is it bubbling and on fire?
You'll see.
It'll help.
You'll see.
You want to be an actor, don't you? Want to be an actor.
Another interesting thing with this is it does a good job of replicating the restrictions of use of the camera, which you would have had much more of a problem back in the day of having a mobile and sort of maneuverable camera. Every so often they slip through a shot like the shot where it zooms down on that box that he opens.
Yeah.
Which clearly isn't one of the time, but it's not. They don't stick out too badly.
I will draw your attention to the much overjoyed and, in my case, now officially maligned movie Citizen Kane. A film where, in all honesty, he does some amazing stuff with the cameras, with the technology that he had. People were able to do stuff, but because of how outside the box you had to think, a lot of people didn't. You just take a look at the intro of Citizen Kane, where the camera goes through the gate. The gate at Xanadu. That's quite impressive, considering once you realise what he had to do to get that shot.
I guess I'm speaking more in terms of kind of general film, like that shot just there, and these ones where you have just a slight sort of pan across the crowd and things like that. And this here, we've got this slow tilt down. Stuff like that just wasn't so common.
No. Well, neither were the fast cuts.
Mm.
A lot of talking head sequences would be two people in shot talking, and then it would be slow cuts. I love the fact he's called Mr. Bradbury. It's so cool.
Now, this whole sequence obviously is not from the original book, original story.
No.
And the idea of inserting Charles Fort and having this debate is a really, really interesting idea. I love the way they've put Charles Fort into it and set up this back and forth between the two, which really sets out the standpoint of the characters and where everybody stands on this issue of weird things going on.
And it doesn't really feel out of place either. It fits nicely
really
into this world.
It's possibly the most successful thing about it.
Mm-hmm. They do a very, very good job in the film of mirroring Lovecraft's style of dialogue, but without ever actually aping it.
Mm.
The feel of it comes through without the use of ridiculous words.
Yeah, they're not just paying lip service by throwing in the oddball phrases and words which he tended to rely on and fall back on.
Mm-hmm. And so you could have a drinking game of how many times the word Eldritch is mentioned here compared to the book. Because I'll tell you one thing, by the end of the book you'd be blind. I say book, it was a short story.
Well, yeah. There's certainly an interesting thing going on with the lighting in this. There's a large amount of quite kind of film noir-esque touches.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to be playing a lot with shadow in this sequence, which is quite nice to see. Especially when they cut to the old man listening to the radio. I really, really like all the lighting in that scene.
It can work against them sometimes, because you see where they've lit it a very sort of striking way, and then a cutaway within that same scene or that same location, the lighting won't be the same.
Yeah.
You get some sort of odd, wonky bits like that.
One of the things I like about this scene is it does one of my favourite camera tricks ever, which is a reflection in people's glasses. Especially when you have an audience and you can see the reflections of something they're looking at in the glasses. It's a very subtle one. It only happens maybe twice through the scene, but it's one of those things that I think works really nicely.
They also do a good job of framing the characters. There's a lot of shots looking up from sort of below the debaters and the mediator there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that bit where he's really starting to rant and he sort of puts his hands on the desk and it's looking up at him. And, he looms large in the shot, and it's a really nice way of putting across just how much conviction he has in his argument.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good way as well to make the audience feel like they're actually part of the debate, because obviously the camera seems to be the point of view of the people. It helps to make you go, oh, maybe I mean, it makes you mind. It doesn't make you think, oh God, I'm actually there. 3D movie kind of thing. It helps you get a bit more invested in the movie doing things like that.
Yeah. It puts you in the audience in effect.
Yeah. Now, would this movie have been better if it was made 3D?
No.
What do you mean? Depth perception.
I'll tell you what, though. From Beyond would have been better in 3D.
Oh, yeah, that would have been amazing.
I've actually not so far seen a 3D movie.
You're a lucky man.
Apart from the old style 3D, the coloured lenses and that kind of thing.
Oh, you see, that was proper 3D, that was.
There's not much difference
between... It was all horror
between...
movies of people poking you in the eye.
To be fair, I don't think there's a huge amount of difference between that stuff and this stuff of today. Not a huge amount, really.
The idea back then was 3D popping out at you, whilst nowadays it's 3D is moving further back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to have more depth in the film rather than a flaming skull being thrown at you by Freddy Krueger.
Which I'd kind of prefer.
Yeah, exactly.
It fits the kind of film.
I always feel that 3D is something that should only ever be used if it's been made by a film company called Castle. Does anyone know Castle?
Off the top of my head.
They made films back in the 40s, 50s, and to a lesser extent the 60s. But it's the 40s and 50s is the bit I like. What they would do is they would actually pay people to be in the cinema to run around and mess with people.
Oh, right. I get you.
So you'd have the 3D film, but you'd also have things like electric buzzers in your chair.
Yeah, this is kind of one of these, one in a long series of kind of 1950s cinema fads and the things sort of which carried all the way on through easily into the 70s. We had things like Sense-Around and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And even you had the experiments with pumping smells into theatres, which,
Yep.
you know, you imagine this film with accompanying smell track.
Right. What's his name? Eugene W. Castle. He himself would actually turn up at certain big film releases. Not big film releases, because his films were never big films, but he'd turn up somewhere in New York, and he'd have somebody dressed up as the murderer from the movie running at people in the audience and stuff.
Have you seen Matinee?
Matinee.
Yeah,
No.
Joe
Nope.
Dante film, I think.
It rings a bell, but I don't think I've seen it.
I'm pretty sure that's a film that's actually, there's a character in it that's based on him.
Mhm.
I think it's John Goodman plays him, possibly.
How have I not seen this? I love
Yeah,
John
it-
Goodman.
The details in my head are a little sketchy, but yeah, look that one up. It's about sort of about that kind of showmanship and that kind of sort of cinema going.
Back when filmmakers were more akin to the carnies than they were to businessmen.
Yeah, it's I think it's probably set. I don't know quite when it's set, actually, off the top of my head, thinking about it. Probably would be around sort of 1950s-ish, I think, late 50s. It's been a while since I've seen it, but what you've just told me, it sounds very much like the character was based on him.
Well, there was a few of them. They were akin to snake oil salesmen to anything else. I love that type of guy. Whilst we've got a little bit of a quiet moment in the film, Mr. Collins, have
Hello.
you? I'm assuming from what you've said that you have in fact read Whisper in the Darkness.
I have, and I have the hefty Necronomicon just here, which tells me, in fact, it was the last story I read, because that's where the bookmark ended up.
All right. Well, that's handy to know. How do you feel about the adaptation from that into this? Well, first of all, what did you think of the original story?
I do like that one. I think it's a good story. It does feel like it builds up for perhaps slightly too long, and then, as with a lot of, well, maybe not a lot, but as with several Lovecraft stories, its ending is very much a sort of, you know, what happens from the point of revelation to the end of the story is just kind of blind panic and not recorded. And then the detail at the end of the story is the thing which caused the person to panic and run away. It's that whole sort of like, you know, the final kind of, not exactly punchline, but...
Yeah, the final throw.
Yeah. So as such, I find it interesting because it does, like you said, touches on the themes of science fiction and also sort of the occult and black magic and the idea of alien creatures. And it entrenches it in the good old familiar settings of sort of, you know, the backwoods, high in the hills.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a lot of sort of the classic traits, and it ties them all together quite nicely.
Well, what I think is interesting is that you said there about it taking classic traits, but it mixes them up in a way that, for the most part, hadn't been done before. And this is where a lot of, I think, Lovecraft's work is an interesting snapshot, because you can look at it now and you can think to yourself, oh, well, I've read this kind of story before. But you have read this kind of story before because the author who has written this type of story before, and because I haven't done it so far in this episode, like that fucker August Derleth. Got to be one a show now. They took a lot of the ideas and things and then, you know, worked with it. The only difference in a lot of cases being, especially in the people like Stephen King, they were able to write. Lovecraft was a fantastic ideas man, but he was not the greatest of writers.
No, especially it's evidenced in his sort of repetition, and almost like every so often you can see him trying to put an idea down, but he just has to keep rephrasing what he's saying.
Yeah.
And it's that repetition that almost is one of the attractive qualities of his writing, even though technically it's a failing. It's kind of a flaw.
It is. If you look at it with an objective eye, it is a terrible style of writing. But it gets the points across. It brings up the atmosphere that you need for these things.
Yeah, it's almost got a weird sort of mantra-like or hypnotic kind of feel to it.
Well, one of the interesting things I once heard was that Lovecraft is a good idea with lots of bad elements. And all those bad elements working together make it good. And
Yeah.
I'd be hard pressed to disagree with that comment.
Now we're coming up in the film here to a point which was the first point that made me go, oh dear. And it's just a little thing, but it's a little thing that bugged me, which is the introduction of the photograph that needs the stereoscopic imaging goggles. That was the first thing that made me wince a bit with this film.
Are you telling me that those goggles are not some of the greatest things you'll ever see?
It's just, I mean, I like what they're doing so far. I like how they're introducing the evidence this way and how they've set up a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just this sort of point of, we just so happen to have a device for this.
You've watched Fringe. You know that the scientists always have a device that will always work.
Oh yeah, of course.
And to be fair, they are in the Miskatonic universities, so I got around it by going, this place is pretty fucked up anyway, so why not?
Yeah, they've probably got all sorts of crazy inventions. But you're right, though, the fact that it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
I like to think that whilst these people are talking, Indiana Jones is off somewhere doing one of his adventures.
Yeah, or maybe he's just in the next room in the party. You know,
Possibly.
They just never got around to introductions. He's, you know.
I've always felt an Indiana Jones style film based in the Lovecraft Cthulhu mythos would be a fantastic idea.
Not too far from the realms of what could happen, unlike Aliens, in my eyes.
How much better would it be in Crystal of the Kingdom Skull, Cthulhu Rose?
Yep, I would have liked that.
I could talk for far too long about that movie.
Yeah.
But crossovers, you know, they can and they do work. And I don't know.
I don't mean
Sorry.
Indiana Jones himself. I just mean that sort of adventure movie, that 1940s adventure style movie.
Yeah.
With a great adventurer going off and doing that kind of thing.
Well, I suppose the closest thing you can come to that is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, not the film, the
thank God.
novels.
Thank God.
Because in the back of the trade paperbacks, there's a sort of quite weighty, actually, for considering it's just in the back of the book. There is a story which, and other parts of the graphic novels also, they do bring together those elements. I don't know if it was ever entirely spelled out, but there are certainly points in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen where they talk about a sort of Lovecraftian thing happening, sort of an in-between the adventures that are recorded thing. And so it's certainly possible, because then you've got Alan Quatermain as, instead of obviously Indiana Jones, but of a similar ilk.
Sorry, I just went off into my own little world there, thinking about. Oh man, the image in my head was just like a fedora-wearing adventurer driving a biplane into Cthulhu's face.
I'd be down with that.
Yeah.
One thing that confuses me a little with this is this scene here. It's very interesting to see the interaction between the different characters, especially when he dismisses the dean and tells him to run along, which I thought was genius. But if I'm not mistaken, this is kind of the last time you see this group actually together in the film.
Yeah,
They all but about two of them just vanish.
Yeah. Well, it does the Lovecraftian thing of reducing a group right down. You know, there will always be the odd people that you meet along the way, but you never have a group. It's never the famous five, is the best way I can put it.
What about the Secret Seven?
Or the Secret Seven. or the Sexy Six, Enid Blyton's lesser-known stories.
When she went into porn.
That's a crossover I don't want to see with Lovecraft. one for the creepy Japanese market, I guess. But,
maybe.
With Dunwich Horror, you do have a group at the end, at least.
That's true.
But you're right, it's definitely the exception.
Mm-hmm. It's very rare that you have a large group, just purely because it's harder to be in a scary environment with more. The more people there are, the more safer people are going to feel. You reduce
this
that.
is why you always split characters up in a horror movie, huh?
Yep, exactly.
I can kind of justify this as well, because this is like everybody's getting around the table to see what the new toy the guy bought was yesterday from Toys R Us. It's like, oh, what do you buy? What do you buy? Oh, I got these pictures of these crazy aliens that are invisible until you put this up. And then there's only one that's like, yeah, all right, fuck it, I'll go and check out this shit. Anyone else want to come with me? You fucking kid, look at that bug. I'm not going there. No.
So this is the thing that I found a bit weird, though, is I would have thought that Charles Fort would have been chasing this from this point on.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed a bit strange that they went to the trouble of setting the characters up to then sort of throw them out.
Well, I think they get set up just to make Wilberth more of a rounded character.
Mm.
You know, he wouldn't make the decision that he makes, and he wouldn't have stuck with the decision he made if he hadn't have been so firmly rejected.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If he was just a throwaway thing with some guys you'd never met, he said no, it would have come across as quite cliche, quite dull. But because you've had characters that are characters who have rejected him, for, let's face it, decent reasons,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's not like they went, "You're mad, Wilberth. Your face is crazy." But a point you made earlier on that I'm going to come back to.
Mm.
Lovecraft's endings.
Yeah.
We have discussed many things on this show, ranging from his slight bigotry, shall we put it?
Yeah, man. Good times.
Yes, well, they certainly changed one character in this to evade that.
Yes, they did.
Oh, did they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
They also, a small amount of sexism that he has in his... Well, less sexism and more women don't exist.
Yeah, I think that's more fair to say.
Yeah. But we have never spoken about his endings. The fact that 90% of his books end in the same kind of way. So I keep saying books, I do mean stories, short stories, or novellas. Which is usually arg, the horror, the madness, it's at the wall, it's at the window, it's coming up the stairs, shib nagarath, tickly.
Or the other version is, then I went mad and ran away. And the thing that made me go mad, which I don't want to tell you, and I'm only telling you because I'm about to kill myself, or absolutely have to tell you, but I don't want to tell you. I really don't want to tell you because it made me go mad. And it made me go mad, is this. And then the reveal.
Yeah. Or actually, my favourite ending to any Lovecraft story, you fool, Charles Dexter Ward is dead. Which I've always quite liked.
I really like the ending to The Colour Out of Space.
Yes.
It's kind of cyclical. It kind of almost, starts and ends with the same sort of phrase, but just the idea of, that it's going to be filled in, there's going to be a reservoir, but I don't want to go back there and I'm not going to drink the water.
Something in the water. I'm thinking my favourites are either going to be... I've just realised what we're doing here is just blowing endings for stories.
Blowing endings for stories from when, though?
Nigh on 100 years ago? Well, if you think about it...
Spoiler warning forever.
Actually, I've never considered that. He was writing these in the 30s. Yeah. Christ almighty, it's closer to being 100 years than it is to being 50 years ago. My God, that's a scary thought I've never thought of. Whoa. It's either going to be the wonderful, you fool, Charles is dead, blah, 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 or the one that's Mountains of Madness. Because there's something about the ending of Mountains of Madness which always tickles me in just the right way. The idea that you are stuck in a tiny little aeroplane with a man screaming random words down your ear. I don't know about you, but a guy screaming about albino penguins is not something you want when you're driving a plane.
Are you sure? That sounds pretty awesome.
Dickily!
It's going to be a fairly long flight. No movie, just the guy screaming about penguins the whole way.
Last
All
time.
been there.
Last time it was the little kid who wouldn't stop crying. This time it's the man who's gone mad. God damn it.
I thought this was a nice little bonus point. Oh, look, there's a cat. Seriously, it's a nice little, a nice little nod, really, I suppose.
Well, where's the cat from? That's my question.
Out of space.
Space cat.
They're all from outer space.
Could it have been from unknown Kadath? Oh, I'm on with that one, fine.
It's funny you should make that little noise because the Twilight Zone, it's a funny one because the structure of the Twilight Zone stories, a lot of them, is a similar structure to Lovecraft stories. And I don't know if it's just a general sort of sci-fi type cliche of how they're structured or not, but it did strike me earlier on that a lot of short stories like that do have that sort of familiar pattern to them.
Yeah. I suppose I think it's the nature of the short story, isn't it, if you come to think about it?
That's
where
true.
if the short story is literally just a short story, here is the beginning, middle, and end, and it's just a compressed narrative that you'd get in a book, but down to 7 or 8 pages. You don't have time to learn anything, do you?
Yeah.
But if you've got those quick, sharp shocks, so to speak. That's an interesting point. I'll have to think about that one.
I quite like the shot that just happened there, where he sits down on the train and the chap comes and sits out of focus just behind him over his shoulder on the right hand side. It's just a nice little thing where it's not sort of explicitly pointed out, but this chap sat there and he's clearly there for a reason.
About 30 seconds after the train starts moving, he actually throws a man out the window and just goes, "No ticket." I don't know why he's Russian for some reason, but there we go.
Look at that sexy old car.
Oh, I love that car.
Look at that sexy car. Jesus.
Its driver's even better.
Yeah.
This man is the slimiest bastard.
I think he's just played so well. He's got this certain, I don't know, he gets it right in terms of the emphasis of what he says and the tone in which he says it. But the reaction to him by Willarth is constantly a look on his face like he smelled a really bad fart. It's like he's repelled by the guys permanently.
He reminds me of. Do you remember Top Gear before Top Gear became good?
No.
Yes.
Do you remember Quentin?
Yeah.
He reminds me of him. He just needs more of a receding hairline and a bit more baby oil slapped on.
He has spawned the Mikey mustache, though.
Oh my word! It's Mikey if Mikey was a salesman.
There's still
New
time,
look.
Gruff, you know.
The idea of our young paleontologist growing up in the world and going off to New York to become a salesman.
Still think we should send him to the Miskatonic University to complete his doctorate.
Oh yeah, because God knows what he'd dig up there.
Exactly.
This isn't a goddamn dinosaur. It's not even made of DNA.
Oh God.
This is the last letter that you get from him. It's just this tweet. It's coming up the stairs.
Problem is, I just shrug my shoulders and go, "Oh, that Mikey, he's so crazy. Oh, he's gonna eat my skin. Look at me."
I love
I'm
the
Irish.
idea of using Twitter to write a Lovecraftian style message. I'm going to try this later on as a bit of an experiment.
I can't imagine Lovecraft would approve of Twitter somehow.
Oh, he would. I get the feeling that Lovecraft would firmly approve of Twitter. Actually, no, he wouldn't, because you only have 140 characters. Lovecraft's letters are notoriously long.
Most of his words are about that long, I think. This uncomfortable car journey is pretty brilliant, I have to say. It's just everything about it's just slightly off, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All the comments are just slightly funny timing or deliberately odd questions and slightly sinister comments. It's brilliant.
You're not adverse to having your brain removed from your body, are you? What? Oh, never mind.
That's the subtext.
just making conversation. You're not opposed to aliens,
You always wear that hat.
I have
not
to.
armoured, not an armoured hat, just a regular hat.
Just brings out a drill from the back. Just in case.
What do you think of this drill for, drilling into Pig's skull? Do you think it'll work? Yeah?
You might take a little bit of issue. Oh, okay. Well, I've got this knife. What I quite like is the car. Because of the nature of the car that they're driving, they're a little bit too close together.
Yeah.
The comfort zone has been completely... and there he goes by slapping him on the leg. The comfort zone's completely out. There is no me space here.
And then he also leans over to him when he talks quite a lot. And he's clearly hating every second of it. But no, I didn't notice that. That's a good point. Redneck?
What I quite like about here is, Colin, you have seen, I'm hoping, In the Mouth of Madness.
I don't believe I have.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Then these next few moments may be very unpleasant for you. The way that all this works out feels the same kind of way that section towards the end of Mouth of Madness went. Because you know things are not right. You know things aren't how they should be. And you know that the main character's thinking that as well. But there's no real proof. There's no evidence. It's just that unsettling feeling. In this case, it's the way things are unfolding. In the case of Mouth of Madness, it's because of the town being odd. But I kind of get that sort of proto-feeling that it's that cultist mentality that terrifies me.
I think it'd be the nearest analogue I'd have to that is probably Arlington Road.
Yes.
Where you've got the guy who suspects his neighbours are terrorists hatching a bomb plot, but he has no real evidence, just an inkling and some circumstantial stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there is that feeling of something is clearly wrong, but you don't know whether it's what he thinks it is, or whether it's something else, or whether it's nothing. But it's probably something.
I find the entire idea of using cultists in horror an interesting one. I use the term cultists as a umbrella term, much like the umbrella he's holding. Yes.
And again, they're both holding the umbrella.
Yes.
Do not let it go. There's just something.
Because it's weird.
Yeah. I'm going to do that to people in future. Maybe I'll never get a shop job again, but we'll see.
Again, a very similar bridge, I would say, as well, to In the Mouth of Madness.
Yep.
Because that's a very similar style bridge that they used to cross over to Hobbs End.
Well, that bridge, that type of bridge, the idea of it comes from Sleepy Hollow.
Yes, yeah.
Even though that bridge doesn't actually exist.
No, I think we talked about this on another Lurkers in the lobby.
Did we?
If not, we've certainly talked about it before, because I remember, I might be in Jai, actually. I've had this conversation.
Covered bridges.
Well, architecture's a great thing to talk about. Everyone loves architecture. I don't know what this accent's meant to be.
Pirate.
Arr.
So what is it you were discussing about covered bridges? I'm just saying this because I like the phrase covered bridges. I'm going to use that as much as I can, sorry.
Well, you want to say it in the correct term, just covered bridges.
Did you say ridges and bridges?
I'll leave that to you.
Lovely.
Covert ridges.
I'd uncover the bridge. But anyway, the bridge in Sleepy Hollow doesn't actually exist. The bridge in Sleepy Hollow is in fact a little stone bridge that goes over a brook. It's not the great big covered bridge that goes... Sorry, it's not the great big covered bridge that goes over the river.
Oh, right.
That's never... Well, it might have existed, but it doesn't exist now.
So the last thing I can remember with a covered bridge in it is
Bridge.
Beetlejuice, another Tim Burton one.
Yep.
I wonder what significance covered bridges have in films.
Well, as I say, it all just ties back to the story of Sleepy Hollow. The Headless Horseman coming out of the woods, trying to enter the village by the covered bridge. It's just one of those... Every picture you see of the horseman... I'm sorry, that man's face is ridiculously beautifully ugly.
It is quite brilliant, isn't it? You're just there, you're looking at him and going, right, so farmer, homesteader, mob hoodlum. What else can we do with this face?
You can see a 1940s Chicago gangster with it.
Oh, definitely.
He's missing a pitchfork and a torch, though. That would complete his look.
Yeah.
Maybe a big bushy mustache as well, and him going... "Arr, arr, 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 arr."
He's the type of man who suits a beard. Because
Yeah.
it hides most of his face.
So mean.
I like to think that he woke up one day, looked in the mirror and went, what can I do with a face like this?
But two choices. I can either be an actor, break rocks.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry, he's probably a lovely man.
Not the way you demonized him today. Jesus.
Demonized or dehumanized.
Pick your poison.
That just there was the second slight wobble with the film, is when I saw the crop dusting plane,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, oh no, they're not, are they?
Well, it doesn't quite work like I expected it to. It doesn't
I
quite...
don't know.
well, I don't know why I'm keeping things back in case of spoilers. When we get to it later on, they do some fun things with it. I love the rain effect.
I'm not
I
a
never
big...
questioned it myself.
By the rain effect, do you mean the actual rain effect or the CG rain effect? Because they use both.
Well, I like the rain with
the actual rain, the proper rain.
So you like the effect of rain?
I shall change the entire way I've explained this. I like the fact that he's walking through this drudge. It's not the Hollywood torrential picking out the big fat drops.
It's romantic comedy downpour.
Yeah, it's just wet and miserable and oppressive and horrible. And we've all walked through that. We all know what it's like. It's miserable.
Yeah, I like the practical rain effects, but I'm not a big fan of the CG rain effects, which they used at the start of the movie, and I use thing actually here as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, they sort of overlay it, don't they?
Yeah.
I think that's a good old guy with a watering can on the roof and CGI there.
Oh, yeah. It's the CGI which I don't like, because I've seen that. I'm pretty sure that's a simple effect to do in After Effects. I'm pretty sure I've used it before. And if I can use it, anyone can use it.
Well, you've got to remember, these guys are not big budget filmmakers.
No.
That's one thing I have to hand it to them for, is that with the exception of a few of the earlier scenes clearly using an empty room with some furniture in it, rather than like a full-blown set, which, I only noticed once or twice. I think they do an extremely good job considering how cheap the film is.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased with how they've managed to get around all of the giveaways, because there aren't actually that many. Well, not so far anyway.
I was just having a quick look. I can't actually see how much it cost to make.
Oh.
I shall leave you to discuss upon yourselves, and I'm going to have a quick look.
It cost as much cotton candy that's in my chair.
No, I'm not going to look any further, but I can't find a budget for it at all. Good lord.
Candy.
This guy's voice was a bit
Obvious.
I don't know. Yeah, I think so.
I think they should have built up to it over time.
Yeah.
Maybe not had it straight off the back. Because I don't know about you two, but if I'd heard this guy, I would be like, mate, your voice, it sounds a bit alien or something.
Sounds a bit like that recording you sent me.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're trying to tell me something.
Can I try to remove
Lassie?
your head just to see if you're human?
Can I see what's under your blanket, old man? Nothing sexy, I promise.
It's not the first nor last time you've asked that question, is it?
Is this Wilbur or is this Andy you're asking?
I'm leaving that to your imagination. Answer as you see fit.
Neither of us want to answer.
One thing that I think they perhaps missed a trick on is that Mr. Akeley here isn't set up very well. You're not entirely sure, like, who he is really. He's been sending letters, and
he's found things on the farm.
Yeah, but you're not sure. I mean, in the story as written, he's clearly somebody who's a very astute, even academic person. Whereas in this, he comes off as more maybe he's just a farmer.
Yeah.
I mean, his son says that he's smart, and his son seems to be a smart kid himself. But he's not really. You're not really given that same information. It's almost like you're not even really sure who this guy is so much.
Well, Andy, as you're somebody who hasn't read the story before, and what did you feel of that? How did you think he was?
How was he portrayed? You mean? I didn't feel he was. I didn't feel he was like of the scientist kind of level of intelligence, but I thought he was maybe just a fairly intelligent kind of dude who just decided to be a farmer. I could believe that he could put some stuff together and whatnot, but whether he could convey all this information to a guy who goes to university as a professor, maybe not. It didn't aggravate me either way. I just was like, well, maybe he's just sending a letter, and maybe he has an idea of what's going on to a point, or had an idea, I suppose.
Aye.
I mean, in the letters that he writes in the story, his standard of language. Don't know what just happened there. His standard of language is particularly high, I think.
Was it not like there's a piece of shit on my farm? Ooh-I. E-I-E-I-O. And on this farm, there was a Migo. E-I-E-I-O. There's the song for the movie that they needed to end it with.
I've got a brand new combine bore machine. And I'll give you some madness.
Yes,
I've just managed to find that reported budget of this film was less than $400,000.
Bloody hell.
That's the closest I've managed to find.
That makes sense, but still, whoa, wow.
You think about that, that's absolutely incredible, isn't it?
It's nothing.
Oh, it really isn't.
No.
Yeah,
Well-
it always surprises me when discussing how much a film costs that people don't get exactly how much money, can sink into a film. It's
Oh, yeah.
like I did film and video at university, and when you're just making student level films, it's amazing how expensive and how convoluted and how involved stuff can get.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I mean, even doing videos for YouTube like I do, you're looking at, you set aside several hours for something that's 10 minutes of video.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm well aware of that at the moment because I've learned the art of stop motion.
Oh, God.
Good Lord.
You've begun doing that, have you?
Yes, I have begun the long and arduous task of stop motion.
How is that going? Because stop motion is used in this, I suppose, or seems to be hinted at.
Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
stop motion.
Yeah. So how have you been finding your stop motion going? It's awful, isn't it? That's why I've never wanted to do it. I tried it once and it was like, yeah, never again.
Stop motion is great, but it requires much greater patience than I have.
Why, I say awful.
I think that this is where my problem's going to lie. I'm all right for about an hour, and then I have to go and do something else.
I think another slight issue here with Akeley is the fact that you've got no reason really to like him, and the way he acts, you don't like him. It's like you've kind of got no investment. And again, going back to the story as written, you read his letters, you read the back and forth between the two characters, and you can see that there's a connection going on. Whereas with this, it's almost like he's rolled up at the guy's house. The guy's creepy and weird.
I think that's a good way of building a bit of dread, though, because you're like, why are you not leaving this place? Can't you tell this guy is just kind of, there's something wrong and messed up with him? Listen to how he's talking and listen to what he's saying. Just get out. It's impending danger. It's the classic kind of horror signs. Like, all it needs to be is a dark and stormy night, which we actually get to a little bit later.
But he does have the most comfortable looking hat.
He does. Yeah, I'll give him that. Yeah.
Maybe he's actually a fisherman. He's not a farmer.
That's who he reminds me of. He looks like the long lost brother of Thingy from Dagon.
Oh,
Iboka.
Iboka.
No, he going to Faka.
But the thing is, because he's all dressed up all cuddly and warm, he's got his lovely little hat on, he's got his nice little beard, he looks like a lovely, friendly guy. But the eyes and the way he speaks is just wrong.
And the close-ups on his mouth when he smiles.
And it's the little laugh as well. The horrible, dry, dusty laugh he's got. There's clearly something is wrong, yeah. But I don't know, I guess does it actually reference the bit in this? I can't remember now, where his tone abruptly changes.
I don't think so. I think it pretty much stays like this throughout however much longer he's left in. Spoilers!
No, I mean writing-wise, the tone. Yeah, I'm sure it is in the film where he receives a letter that is weirdly different to.
Right. I think you meant yes.
Because the letters are kind of him getting increasingly terrified and things degenerating, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes this letter that's like, actually, things are rather lovely here. Come and visit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the last letter he got.
Yeah, that's right.
I like the idea of the horror. Do you want to come for a holiday?
I know I've said like all this horrible stuff going on, aliens, my dog's getting killed, and me having to shoot out through the window every day, but it's actually quite a nice place in the summer.
He sends a letter that says, "You've seen Tremors. You like Tremors. Come."
Oh, see, I was thinking more like, you know how it is down here in the south. Don't worry about it. We're always shooting out the window anyway.
Well, the south of Massachusetts.
Yeah. It's a very different place down there.
Down on the Massachusetts bio.
The swamplands of Massachusetts.
The guy playing Wilmarth does spend pretty much the entire second half of the film with this expression on his face. It's just genuinely uncomfortable looking expression. And he keeps it up for most of the second half of the movie.
I have to believe that the character's wondering, why am I still here?
This guy's talking about time bending and stuff. I'm slightly cynical and skeptical, but this time bending stuff, I don't know.
But he's got such a comfortable looking hat that I can't help but sit here and listen.
I kind of look at it as that look as when you watch like whatever Quentin Tarantino's Hostel movie was, because it wasn't a horror movie, so you watch that and you've got this kind of look on your face as the gore's happening. I think it's the perfect expression of that uncomfortable look. Like you're still interested to see if it gets any better or more interesting. It doesn't, but you're still not very happy to see all this stuff happening to people. That's how I look at his expression at the moment.
I like it. All people who suffer at the hands in the Cthulhu mythos are in fact just watching Hostel. They just want it to be over. They want to get away from it. This works for me. This is a perfect metaphor.
Yeah.
What's going on in front of them is an incredibly unpleasant experience.
I'd say at least for them experiencing the Cthulhu mythos, it's a bit more interesting though, and has some point to it.
Well, this is kind of why we decided to start doing this, because we're having a conversation, and we've probably discussed this before, but I'll discuss it again now for the hell of it.
Do it for my sake.
Oh, we'll do it for your sake, sir. Yes. Where, for the majority...
Oh, science is about to happen.
Science!
Sorry.
Horror films aren't interesting.
No.
Horror films are gore-laden people running before they get stabbed or dismembered. Sometimes this works in its favour.
Yeah.
Jason X.
Yeah.
Jason X is a wonderful movie full of joy and makes me chuckle.
It's terrible, but it's great.
Lovely film. Me and Andy were discussing this, and we came to the conclusion that neither of us really like gore movies. We like horror movies.
I know precisely what you mean. I think it was Mark Kermode talking about the new Nightmare on Elm Street, where he said that it was like there was a meeting and a bunch of people sat around and went, right, what do we remember from Nightmare on Elm Street? Freddy Krueger, he's got a manky face, he's got like knife hand, he's got the hat and the jumper, he kills people in their sleep. Yep, cool, okay, make it. And they missed the great thing about the whole concept, which was that it was surreal. It was weird. It was about dreams and about how reality distorts in your dreams. It wasn't just about the guy with a knife hand killing people.
Well, I think the more interesting thing about Krueger in general is the fact that you could not escape.
Yeah.
Eventually you have to sleep.
Yeah. But this is it. It's all these... the concept itself was the interesting bit, not the fact that he was a guy who killed people, in horrible ways. And obviously... Oh no, hang on a minute. We've reached the Plan 9 section.
Yeah, I love this, because this has to be a Plan 9 reference. This has to be them making...
It must. It really has to be. It can't be anything else. In the context of this film, I didn't like any of this stuff.
Oh, really? I really did. I thought it was cool.
I'm with Andy on this one. I love it. Yeah. It's ridiculous science.
And I love the effect as well.
Mm-hmm.
I like it in itself, just not in the context of the film. That said, it wouldn't really have worked if it had been just a voice.
No.
I like the fact that they went, we really have to have a visual with this, otherwise it's just another section of the guy talking to a disembodied voice.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be long and talky, and, I think the thing I don't like about it is mostly the eyeball on stalks machine.
I love that thing. It's like somebody murdered Wall-E.
Oh, well, I looked at him more like, what's his name? Guy from with the silly Indian who was not Indian.
Johnny Five.
Johnny Five, that's it.
Short Circuit.
That's for me. Yeah, Short Circuit.
I think it's a bit too, in a way, it's almost a bit too animated. It's like whoever was operating it got a bit carried away, and it sort of like whizzes around and looks all over the place.
Yeah,
again,
it should clunk stop, shouldn't it?
It's not going away. That expression's stuck on his face.
The wind changed. His mother was right.
I mean, like I say, I like why they did this. I can see exactly why they did this.
Mm-hmm.
they had to do something, and I like the fact it's a bit scan lines and glitches and sketchy looking.
Mm-hmm.
The accompanying eye on stalk thing just made me giggle too much. It really did.
See, I like it. I have to admit, I love the eyes on stalks. There's just something. How can I put it? There's something silly about it.
So that's my problem with it.
This film doesn't have much of a. It doesn't have any kind of sense of humour to it.
No, that's true.
It is dour. It is incredibly dour. So to have this little pinprick of silly.
And it's played so seriously.
Yeah,
as well.
they do. They never draw attention to it. There's not any point he just looks at it and goes, "You've got to be fucking kidding me."
Which he could do. He really could do.
Yeah, it's.
You expect at one point he's just going to go, "You are."
Yeah, he does.
I see what you mean. It does add a degree of almost kind of, I guess, cheeky kind of fun to it without ever breaking the general, like you say, quite dour and quite serious and depressing feel of the film. And it's not like they make it too silly. It's not like I saw it and just laughed my ass off and that was the end of me believing this film was any good.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pinprick.
Yeah.
I think in some ways it kind of helps for what you're going to see later on. Seeing this, not very silly, but seeing this silly little thing in the film, it helps you accept what you're going to see later on in it.
Now, this shot that's just happened, that camera pan to the back of the chair into darkness,
Mm-hmm.
that to me, I don't know whether it's intentional. It probably isn't. But considering what you find out later, it's almost like that has some real significance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could just be they wanted to, cut away without just a cut. But I wondered if they were trying to direct your attention to that fact of what that, what goes on with Akeley. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It could just be coincidence. I liked it either way.
Oh, it's a discussion about film I've had multiple times, where for a film to be good, it can't just be a film. By which I mean a film that has its story, which is A to B, ship blows up, is directed by Michael Bay, and is just that story with nothing else, usually is a bad film.
Right.
A film that has little themes and foreshadowings within the frame, never spoken about, just little things that happen within the frame that can be interpreted in different ways, is what makes a film. A film needs to have more than just the story to it.
I totally agree. And some of the things I like the most in this are those moments. Like I said, with the earlier one with the guy getting on the train and sitting behind him, who's clearly there to keep an eye on him. You don't know that, but you are clearly suspicious that they have put somebody in the frame on purpose to sit in that sort of section of the frame, and you know that's not for no reason.
Well, you're extrapolating based on your own thought processes. This is the thing. It's giving you hints and clues for you to play with.
Yeah. And this is one of the things I find utterly infuriating when you're talking about a film that's a bad film and people's excuse for it. Say it's an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
People's excuse for it is, oh, well, it's just a dumb action movie. It's like, no. Because for a film like an action movie will cost a hell of a lot of money, and everything that is on the screen has been put there by somebody for some reason.
Yeah.
Right down to like the clothes somebody's wearing, everything about them, everything about where they are, all of the stuff on screen is by its very nature contrived and controlled and there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
If a film is a big dumb action movie and that's your excuse, then it's no excuse, because it's not like somebody was just dicking around when they made it.
Yeah. Well, I think the best example of this is you can take Sylvester Stallone's career. No, I'm going to make a serious point. I'm not just going to start shitting on Stallone.
Okay.
Which I'm fairly convinced is something that you really should never do. But you can take a couple of his films and you can see the decline of the action movie. You look at one of his first ones, which I've mentioned earlier on, Rambo, which is an action movie, but it's an amazing movie. It's incredible. Because that film is not somebody wandering around murdering all and sundry. It is a film which is very action-based, but it is a character piece. And then you can go to Demolition Man. I know I'm skipping forward 10 years each time with this. Demolition Man is a dumb action movie. But it's a proper dumb action movie where some people have to be very clever to make a film that stupid.
Yeah,
And good. It's
Oh, yeah.
cool.
Oh, I love Demolition
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I enjoy it a lot, and like you say, it's almost like for it to be that stupid, somebody must have thought about it enough to know how to make it dumb, you know.
And then you've got The Expendables, which is this decade, which is a fucking awful movie. I don't care what anyone says, it's awful because there's nothing else to it. It's just this action movie. I don't want to say it's just the dumb action movie because that's kind of derails the point I'm trying to make, but it is just, okay, what were the 80s action movies? Well, it's like what you were saying before about Freddy Krueger. What do you remember from the 80s? Explosions and running and death and commando. Okay? Let's put all those things in one film. But without any character paths or character acts to take place, it just becomes incredibly boring.
And the problem they had there was they just went, hey, who were big action stars? Wouldn't it be cool if we could stick them all in one movie? It's like, no, if the movie sucks, it's not cool.
Yeah, exactly. Are you joining me in my camp of the Expendables films suck?
I can't say I've seen them, but I have read plenty in the way of reactions to them. I sort of know the gist, but I haven't seen them enough to actually comment.
Good man. Anyway, to go back to this film. So they're killing a brain.
Now this is kind of we're winding up to the point where the film takes over from the story.
Yes.
Because this stuff's kind of interesting. This is kind of the bit where in the story he's upstairs and he can hear stuff going on downstairs, and then everybody leaves and he goes downstairs to find out what's going on. Whereas in this, he escapes out the window, and then we have this scene where he's looking in on the exposition cultist meeting. Which,
to be fair, he has to kind of do. Yeah. It ties back into what you were saying earlier on about there has to be the visual element, as well as the... Oh, look at that! Look at the little eyes go. There has to be the visual element as well as the audio one. Because just hearing the screaming, from the way this film works, I think you just end up going, well, what the bloody hell's going on there?
You would have lost something.
Mm-hmm. I think you'd have lost the film, to be honest with you. I think the film would have lost the audience, I think would be a better way of putting it.
Yeah, you would have just been sat upstairs just looking at that little girl, and that would be it.
Just looking at the little girl as screaming is taking place.
Yeah, and it's a good way to show you very short glimpses of the prosthetic alien as well.
I love this reveal.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it's less of a reveal, more of a hint, isn't it? But
it's a reveal. It's just a shadowy reveal.
It is kind of a shame that they show you can see what's happened there, which is a bit meh. I don't know. This was the point at which I knew where they weren't going to end the film, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the little things, like you don't see exactly what's going on. There's the shadow, the guy looking up at something that's clearly like 7 or 8 foot tall, and it means that you have to do the mental sort of legwork.
They do kind of break that, unfortunately, because I think it's better, at least with these prosthetic monsters, to not show a lot of them. They do kind of break that near the end of the film, and it doesn't break the movie for me. But I once we get up to seeing the Migo, I kind of go,
well,
less than they tried.
This point, what I thought was going to happen is he meets the little girl, Hannah, is it?
Something like that.
And then she comes in and tells them all, oh, he's run off in a different direction to the way he's going to be escaping, but you don't know that. And they all leave. And then, in a minute, you get that. And you think, right, so what I thought was going to happen at this point was that she was going to then be, in effect, brainwashed. And then run out, catch up with them, and tell them where he was, which I thought would have been really cool. It's sort of almost like, Body Snatchers-esque way, where he thinks, oh, good, I'm in the clear, but then she's actually just been under their control now, and it's too late.
That would have been an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of quotes here, which I think are quite interesting. Sean Branney, who was one of the writers for this, says Lovecraft was better at setups than endings, which is actually something we've discussed. From a dramatic standpoint, Lovecraft's story brought the writers through what would have been Act 2 of a standard movie structure, and then the character of Hannah and the opening of the gate to Yuggoth. Branny and Lemon intended to make Wilmuth's... This is really hard to read. Branny and Lemon intended to make Wilmuth's world more emotionally complicated because Hannah's future caused him to be more invested in more than just himself. Christ. I'm hoping he didn't actually speak like this, because I'm having to extrapolate the words here. The characters of Wilmuth's three friends at Miskatonic were developed from the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game, from characters they had played years before.
Yeah, because I believe the Historical Society was born out of the role-playing game as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
As was the amazing Delta Green. And I'm still waiting for a Delta Green movie.
Not Delta Dawn.
No, Delta Green.
Ooh, stuff's happening. I love just how creepy they look.
That is a hell of a prosthetic.
It's real good.
That was the one bit I was concerned that would be something that would make the film look a bit of a joke, but no, that's a hell of a nice piece of work.
That's probably a good portion of where the money went.
Yeah,
to have something that good and
me.
expensive, it's like, whoosh, woof, Jesus,
I've
guys.
seen worse in more expensive films, that's for sure.
Yeah. Look at G.I. Joe Retaliation, and you will see a really bad prosthetic in that movie.
I haven't seen it yet.
You will see Don Sartan.
It seems recently that there's been a lot more complaints in reviews and just from people watching films about bad prosthetics, and I wonder if that's just due to a higher definition of film, because you didn't seem to get as many people commenting on that sort of thing, but either the quality of people working in prosthetics has gone down, or the quality of film is now higher and people are noticing more. It's just something I seem to have kind of keyed into recently.
I mean, it could well be the fact there's just less people working in prosthetics now. Or the level of quality of people working in prosthetics aren't as good. I draw your attention to the last series of Face Off.
Yeah. See, I assume that most people or filmmakers maybe don't decide specifically to do CG, but there is that thing of CG's sometimes cheaper than getting a prosthetic, which is a shame.
The problem is, it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. To get it done well, it costs money.
Yeah.
Either way.
I can't feel my legs.
Chuckle.
For some
I've
reason...
got some bad news. It's about the legs, arms, and body.
Does anyone else feel that this is what happened to Father Jack when he got sober?
We can only hope. Would it be mean if Wilbur put on the prosthetic mask and started going, look who I am?
Poking his brain with his prosthetic hand.
Well, think how much you could roll a brain in a jar.
Or if you just took the mask and just put it over the brain canister, as good as new.
Just super glued some shoes to the bottom of it. Run to me, Ackley.
I have to say, it was about this point in the film that I started liking it less. Not precisely this little interchange between these two characters, but it was the bit from just around here onwards. For me, it declined pretty quickly. Although this was a bit interesting, where he's tempted to torture the new information out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whoa, steady on.
He's getting pushed to madness.
Yeah.
There's already so many dribblings of a madman you can take.
Well,
That's true.
Before you want to turn the dial marked hurt.
I'm sure Gruff's looked at the dial numerous times at work and gone,
I've got one being built in the corner for us. This is my hurt dial.
I mean, it's not a kind of purist thing, you know. I'm not saying that just because this is different from how the story is that it's worse. I just honestly don't like the direction they took it in.
The problem is how this would have ended if they followed the story.
How does it end in the story?
He runs away and gets back to Arkham.
Nah.
Yeah, he's upstairs in the room and he hears the voices from downstairs and realizes what they are, and then everybody leaves. He ventures downstairs, finds, well, you don't know, but he finds the face and hands.
Mm.
And at that point he goes mad, and you don't know anything much about him from that point until he's safe again. And then he explains that the thing that made him go mad was seeing the face and hands and knowing that he wasn't actually talking to Akeley, but one of the Mego instead.
So it kind of needed to do something else.
It
Which,
did.
of course,
you
then...
couldn't have did it just there.
No. Which, of course, then brings up the question of, should they have done this if they were going to change the third act so much? Because, let's face it, they've bolted a third act on. They've removed the last section and they've bolted a third act onto the end of the film.
I think the problem I have with the third act that they've created is that they almost introduce and resolve too many elements in too short an amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, the little girl who helps him crops up again. And it is kind of, you find out that he had a daughter, but his wife and daughter died. So that's supposed to then give you the reason for him having some sort of emotional investment in Hannah. But to me, it just felt like everything was set up and concluded too fast.
Yeah, there should have been a bit more reference to that beforehand.
I find that's an interesting bit, though, where he nearly tortures him to get the information, but then when he's asked to kill him, he just can't.
Well, once he's in control of his senses, he just can't do it.
I would have thought there'd be a much kinder way to kill a brain in a jar than use a horrible torture device to do whatever it does to a brain.
The toilet.
I don't think flushing it down the toilet.
I was thinking stick it in the toilet, pour bleach down, start flushing.
Or maybe like urinal cakes. That might work.
Cover it in jam, give it to your dog.
Yeah. Take it out of the jar.
Yeah.
That should do it.
Oh, you can tell this is his own movie. Look how high that dude's pants are.
Wow, I'd never noticed.
Draw a gun from pants like that.
Yeah, man, right up to his belly button. This is why older people now have huge
ears to draw a gun.
And a lot of guns on that gun rack as well.
Oh yeah, I didn't see those before.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense because earlier on it's pointed out that he bought a rifle and stuff.
Yeah, he bought a few, it seems, just in case. And
I like the fact that this guy just treats him like a complete idiot. It's brilliant.
I'm sorry, I know a speaker, no stupid.
Who's the professor here, huh? Yeah, you don't understand anything.
This is a trick. I do hope...
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you go first.
I was going to say, I felt this section was like nothing but exposition. It was just this... I feel like this bit goes on for ages and becomes slightly comical even. When he starts shooting, it almost starts getting a bit kind of farcical. But it's a bit too much of, him telling him stuff and him asking questions, which we've already just had.
Yeah. There should have been a bit of a break between them.
It sold me on it being old, though, because when I think of an old movie, I think of a lot of people talking to each other, not much else happening for the most part.
Old films do have pacing problems of cruel, cruel nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, I take you back to Citizen Kane.
Or King Kong. Jeez.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
I was in one of those moods where I was like, I really should watch this movie because it's a movie I should watch. And, oh no, it was an ice age.
See, that's exactly why I watched Citizen Kane.
Because you wanted an experience.
It's because everyone always goes on about it and how it is this masterpiece in movie making. And at the time it came out, it probably was.
Oh, yeah.
I might be slightly out of sync with you now. My video froze up, so I've had to restart it slightly.
Not to worry, we are on 1:15:29.
All right.
So
see if I can get to that.
Damn book!
I hate books.
The book must die.
Well, he could be
Like
considered
I say, it's the
a
amount
hick
of
and
time.
thus hates education.
It's the amount of times he shoots the damn book that gets me. It just becomes hilarious.
No learning!
Science is against Jesus!
At least they counted the bullets.
Out of my mind? Is that a joke because there's going to be a brain in a jar? You bastard!
It's also the fact that he looks at him just then as if he's actually not got a brain.
Yeah,
You out of your mind? Uh-huh.
What's a mind? I do hope that at some point the girl who plays Hannah is given some proper acting work to do.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Because she conveys so bloody much just through expression. She's an astounding actress. I would say the same about Wilbert, but A, he's not an actress, and B, he does have the same expression throughout most of this film.
Yeah, he's all right, but it's just the points where you kind of think, do you want to try a different face now?
Well, I think the interesting thing is most of these guys are stage actors.
Yeah.
A few of them have done short films, but that's about it. They've all come from theatre. And you can see that in a lot of the way that how they act.
I think that actually helps the film.
Oh, very much so.
Style. If you've seen Dial M for Murder, it's that whole way that is basically a filmed play. It's got that same odd feeling about it. Oh dear. This is where I started to worry slightly more.
Yeah, as we all know.
There's a child involved, and we're back at the plane.
If you're gonna have flying monsters, you've got to have a biplane battle.
Snakes! Why'd it have to be snakes?
Or crabs.
Oh, God.
Crabs in a plane.
That is the line you didn't want the little girl to say, that's for sure.
Oh, dear.
I feel that Crabs on a Plane would be an entirely different movie. I'm sick of this motherfucking scratching on this motherfucking plane.
Oh, those kind of crabs on a plane.
This bit got really awkward, I felt. This is supposed to be the bit where, she's now got no dad because he's just been all, we're doomed, and then shot himself. And this is the point where there's supposed to be a bond forming between the two of them to give them a reason to care and to give us a reason to care as an audience. And it's more like he just kind of pours out all of his misery on her.
You can tell he's not used to children, so I kind of like it because it's like, I don't really like kids, but I'll try and help you. Let me tell you about the woes of the world.
And she's
you feel any
in
better?
shock, so.
Yeah, this is probably over her head, so that's fine. He could be talking to a dog right now about the same thing, and the dog would give the same reaction.
It's like this bit where he talks about the war and how a lot of people got sick. It's like, yeah, that makes me feel better.
Be happy your dad died fast.
Yeah.
You could have got gangrene.
Loads of people got sick and nobody could help them. And it was horrible. And people died, including my family. So think yourself lucky or something.
Now have your pudding. If you don't have your pudding, I won't try and resurrect your dad with necromancy.
Let me find that Necronomicon.
Doesn't read any spells, just starts beating the corpse with it. Live! Live!
To be fair, that's probably the safest way to try and bring someone back using the Necronomicon.
I have to hand it to them in this film for one thing in particular, which is continuity. They do a pretty good job of making sure that if people have been rained on, or if the car's been rained on, things stay rained on. He's not mysteriously suddenly dry.
Yeah, he's still moist.
They do a really good job of keeping the continuity up, which even the most high budget films screw up on.
Transformers.
What?
Shut up.
Staying out of this one.
Delightful.
Could be worth. I could just be here screaming at August Derleth again. So Wilmarth, I've got a point.
Pretty bit.
Okay, I shall. So this isn't the last time you're going to hear the name Wilmarth in the Cthulhu mythos when it comes to the books. Brian Lumley's The Burrows Beneath, which seriously is the only one of those ones you should ever read. Once Titus Crow gets into the flying clock, it all goes a bit weird.
What?
Oh, you have no idea. Burrows Beneath is brilliant, but you have the Wilmarth Foundation in that, which is an organisation based out of Arkham, which is dedicated to combating the Cthulhu cycle deities.
So convenient.
I think it's quite nice that Wilmarth got away from here. Yeah, in the books, obviously. Wilmarth got away from here and ran off. He went off mad for a little bit, and then when he got back together, he set up an organisation to try and sort of stop these creatures coming through.
That's a good self-help program. Start a secret organisation to fight aliens or elder things. I'm down with that.
I like it.
I went mad for a few years and then got bored of it.
Well, she seems to have got over a dead dad already.
Oh, no, no, look at the eyes. The eyes are the eyes of someone who's going to beat a man to death with a monkey wrench one day.
Strangle Wilmarth in his sleep the next day.
Oh, it won't be
Well,
Wilmarth.
she just gave him a flashlight without hitting him, so...
But Wilmarth's
Good
safe.
stuff.
Wilmarth's her guardian angel. She will kill to keep him safe. She will eat the bones of anything that hurts him.
And now off he goes.
Oh, those eyes are creepy.
Yep.
Impressively so.
Yeah.
What I like is they weren't creepy before.
No, is this the CGI effect you were talking about?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I can definitely do that in After Effects.
I need to start playing around with After Effects.
It's
funny-
really not a hard thing to do. It's just particles.
The funny thing about this film is, at the point where it brings in its third act, it really goes almost full B-movie. Like, it's strange.
I suppose it does, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, all of a sudden, from that point on...
But I do
you
have
get
to ask
sort
the
of-
question. When you say B-movie, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, more in terms of the old kind of cheap black and white sci-fi type B-movie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You got to remember, films like Day the Earth Stood Still were B-movies.
Yeah.
Granted, if you believe the current thing that popped out a couple of months back, The Day the Earth Stood Still was written to make people aware of the oncoming alien threat.
Yay.
So, yay!
What I mean is more the sort of the more forgettable B pictures, the stuff that's it's not kind of it's not good and it's not so bad it's good. It's more just kind of it was there, it was released and you can watch it, but it's not overly good, but it's not so terrible it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
It has that similar feel about it in a way. It's still got some like very modern things like this camera shot, for example, right here, where he's sort of tracking and looking up from the floor is quite modern looking. But it's just the fact that in come the sort of like daffy sci-fi machines and ridiculous costume and like bad monster effects, albeit CGI. It's kind of all the stuff I wasn't wanting to happen seems to come in at once.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I just B-movies is a term that gets thrown around a lot to call something bad. Just because it was a B-movie doesn't mean it was bad.
No, this is true.
Unless it was Killdozer.
Oh god.
But it's like it's just odd stuff happens like just there where he throws that switch without even knowing what it's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But
He
it's
just does
huge. It's got to do something.
Yeah, what if it made things worse?
No, it's giant. Giant things don't make anything bad. Like
Have you
giants.
seen Mystery Men?
Yes, I have.
Don't just throw switches.
Always throw switches. Only good can come of it.
But you say that, but I like this room.
Oh yes, I
This
love
room is
the.
fantastic.
Are you talking about the effect that we're getting the real
Clive
suit?
Barker.
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought all this was really rather awesome. I liked this a lot, but I'm not sure whether it fit, but it was cool looking and horrible.
Yeah, it is. It's truly, truly horrible.
Yeah, this is more sort of really quite macabre, whereas the stuff in the other room was like, look, spinning things and lightning and stuff.
Spinning things and lightning things. There's a Tesla coil over here, and
Hey, he
Advanced
doesn't find a
savings.
lever and switch this off, does he?
no,
That,
he leaves
that
this
is truly
to suffer.
horrible.
Yeah,
It's great.
I like that.
You can see why this was.
Good
It's not.
effect.
It's
That's
not
the
like a
strange
little.
thing.
It's not like a little mask on the floor of somebody's face. It's like an entire human body that's still sort of alive but missing its face. That's pretty freaky. You could see why someone would go mad after seeing stuff like that.
That said, it doesn't phase him as much as everything else has. Maybe
no,
he's beyond that now.
yeah. Oh, he is. There's the calm little sea of sensible in between a raging storm of mad.
Yeah.
I love
I'm
this
not
thing.
sure. Oh yeah, yeah.
This is amazing.
The
to me.
antenna or what? Or is it just scaffolding constructed by crabmen?
I think it's alien stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what their stairs look like. Because
I
it's
guess-
not right. It's seriously just not right, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's not sort of alien in a sort of overt way, but it's just clearly not designed specifically with humans in mind.
Yeah. Dear me.
I'm we're sort of throwing around the whole thing of, what his state of sanity or madness is, but I don't think I'm getting that from the acting.
No.
Because from his actions, at the moment, he seems more sane than he has been for the whole film. He seems to be very, very calm and very driven and very together, even though he's just seen some stuff that's worse than everything else already.
See, I've never thought about it, but you're mentioning just how much the third arc changes the element. I love that background. The element of the film. And it seriously does. Everything changes.
Yeah. Oh no, CGI, no.
Yeah.
Bad CGI. Stop it.
Bless him.
I mean, I've seen worse in more expensive films, but still. I am Space Pope Genghis Khan III.
Dalima, Dalima. Well, I suppose they didn't have the materials there. Back in the day, where this is meant to be filmed to make a desperately fantastic costume for him, and I don't think the crab people are sewers. I don't think they've got many alien sewing machines.
You look at the little arms.
You think they're going to be very tender and delicate?
Yeah.
I love the way that Migo there just hits him. It's like, you're in the way, smack. That's it. Just sod you.
Get out the way, little rodent.
Yeah.
Just not worth my time.
Where did his mum make that?
I hope so. I'm going out to summon the evil Migo, Mother. Have a good time, dearie.
Okay, watch out for lightning.
It's raining out. Take an umbrella. I don't need an umbrella, Mother.
I've got
Seriously,
evil to be doing.
That hat is a lightning rod. That's not safe.
I love his creepy smile.
Yeah.
His moustache does not suit the hat, though.
No.
Has his moustache increased in size?
I think it has.
It has, hasn't it? It was
Yeah.
penciled in before.
That was me talking about continuity. Apparently being evil grows your moustache.
Well, I can accept that. That sounds logical in my mind. The more evil you are, the more moustache you have.
I think that's perhaps the other thing that I find a little weird, is that it's this concept of good and evil, right?
Yes.
The idea that the Migo are horrible alien monsters.
Derelict!
And it's
Suck a
like,
bitch.
no, one of the things that I always liked with Lovecraft is it's not necessarily always about good and evil monsters and heroes and villains and heroes. It's, a lot of it's kind of a case of different perspectives, different ways of looking at things.
No.
Like the way the brain in a jar that we've seen so far in the film is well up for it. He loves the idea of being able to go to different planets and all this stuff, and it is a good thing. That's the creepy part. You kind of don't have an argument against it. His body's safely in storage. His brain can go anywhere in the universe and witness things that nobody else will see. Splat. And that's one of the things I like with Lovecraft and his work. A lot of it is kind of a case of who's to say we're in the right, who's to say that, we're actually saving the day. It's like we're only sort of the human race. Doesn't mean we're the most important thing. They're quite nihilistic in some ways.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the things I enjoy about Lovecraft's work is the idea that the thing that can cause the ultimate destruction may do so not on purpose, but just as a byproduct.
Yeah, just because we don't matter.
Yeah, because our reaction to it is to go mad, or to burn the earth down or whatever. And this has got nothing to do with any elder creature that's sort of just swimming by. It's when you walk past an ant's nest, do you stop to pay attention to what the ants do when you pass? No. This is exactly what happens when the old ones go and do their thing.
But at this point, we're kind of in a sort of heroes and villains situation, Mr. Noyes, in his Space Pope uniform, has just failed them and they kill him for it. But we're supposed to feel good about that because he was kind of the villain, because earlier on you see him smack that guy in the face for disobeying him and he tortures that brain to death. And he was the villain and he has been punished how villains should be punished in a Hollywood film.
Yeah.
It's like that's kind of, again, It's a bit too straight down the line. If you
I'd argue that he seemed to be in it more for the power than anything else, which is very kind of evil human concept more than anything else.
He was in it for greed, basically.
Yeah, and that
which is a human concept.
Which I think you could determine as an evil quality to go for. So you may not describe the Migo or Migo or whatever as evil, but you could describe his intentions as being evil.
Yeah, very much so. But that's because evil is a human concept. It is a state of. It is a very, I don't want to say childish way, but it's a very simple way to explain a lot of self-serving gains.
Yeah.
That one person may or may not have. Good and evil are. These things don't actually exist as such. You can do an evil act, but you don't get an evil person. And any person that you could classify as evil by, in a society, from society's point of view, they themselves would never class themselves as evil, which is where Hollywood falls down because they simplify everything so much that it becomes unrealistic. The problem here in this film is you have a guy who is, in some cases, he's camping it up a little bit too much. He's been a bit Ming the Merciless, especially in that dress and gown, where, because he's doing that, he's obviously the evil one, which I think kind of works because he is human. Yeah. He got killed because he failed, not because the Migo are evil.
Well, yeah, but he failed, and the fact that they kill him for failing seems a bit peculiar.
Well,
that's their reaction, is to murder him. That doesn't sound particularly, reasonable.
It's...
Oh man, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified at this point that the little girl was going to be piloting the plane. I was like, oh no, Phantom Menace, oh no.
That it's all right. That's not how those biplanes worked.
It really was my number one fear of what they were going to do.
And so I've realised I went on probably about a 2-minute diatribe about the nature of good and evil. I do apologise.
No, I think it was apt for the conversation.
I'm fairly convinced people are listening to this show at times just going, where's all the knob jokes?
Penis. There you go.
Arcing jet of semen. Yeah, moving on.
My favourite kind of
mainly because this one's about crabs, and there's one joke you can get out of that. Whereas,
that's true.
If it was the usual betentacled sort of foulness, there's plenty of jokes to go out there.
Mm-hmm.
Now I thought this section again would look really cheap and crappy, but it doesn't look half as cheap and crappy as I thought it would be.
It's because a lot of it's black background with, when the lightning goes, you see the clouds, but you don't see the clouds and everything all the time. Which I think goes a long way to help.
And it is in black and white, which probably helps a lot as well.
Now here's a good question, I think, which is that the Migo, are they how you would think they would look?
Nope.
I mean, it's interesting, that's for sure.
My only problem with them is their little tin hats. But when I say problem, I don't mean problem, because I love their little tin hats.
Yeah, the little tin hat and monocle eye things are pretty brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Just, again, perhaps not to represent this particular creature.
No.
Sorry, go on.
There's a lack of... mantis, I think, is possibly the best way I can put it. I always expect them to look a lot more lithe.
I think the way the face tentacles flap in the breeze is a little kind of amusing as well. It kind of makes them less scary and more fun.
Yoink.
Mine.
This is one thing I was quite pleased about, is the fact they were like, well, we're not going to do some ridiculous aerobatics in which he manages to get the child back.
Nope.
Thanks for that. I appreciate that. Oh, well, never mind. Bye.
Do you think it dropped her on purpose or just went, oh well?
I get the impression that it slipped. I don't think they're that cruel.
So they're now looking at him and just going, well, that was a fuck up.
We can put your brain in a jar if you like.
Yeah, the whole sort of, I guess, subplot with Hannah is a bit, like I say, it's a bit like, what do we do with her? Get rid of her somehow? All right.
I'm always in for killing children in movies because it doesn't really happen that often. Children are, like in video games, are this invulnerable creature that can never die.
It's one of the reasons I like Pitch Black so much.
I haven't seen Pitch... you mean the Vin Diesel movie?
Yeah.
I have never seen it.
You really should.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I was put off by the fact it had Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel, I don't know. I think if Vin Diesel as Riddick, if you just take it as there is no actor, just the character, then...
Okay. Because I did see the Chronicles of Riddick.
That's shit.
Yes, it was. Oh, you should.
Oh, here's something. I don't understand this.
Okay.
I just don't get what relevance this has.
Should have been a me girl right there, taking off the hat. Not a girl. That would have been great.
Like, is he explaining this to that guy, or what? Yeah.
He's explaining it to anyone who's listening to that little brain in a jar, I guess.
But it's like, why do we have this little cutaway to that chap? I don't get it.
I think it's sort of meant to show just some people. No, I think that's meant to be him when he was younger, with his wife.
Is it?
Really?
And it's kind of just.
It's the same actor from earlier.
The guy with the
he's got his own
name on the side of the plaque.
Yeah.
So. I like this where it cuts back to the other scientists discovering the other planet.
As long as it's not Planet X, just behind Pluto.
Yay, the best of planets. Do you know why? Because it's got an X in it.
I'm the only
And
Godzilla
X
fan.
fans are cool.
I'm obviously the only Godzilla fan here. All right.
I thought you mean maybe Transformers Galaxy Force. You know?
No.
Planet X, yeah.
With his hat, he doesn't half look like Hercule Poirot's best mate and confidant.
I can see that.
Oh, jeez, that reminds... I don't know, for some reason, I just got reminded of another film. I can't remember why.
I was so hoping you were going to say you wanted to see Hercule Poirot go up against the old ones.
All right.
Well, I've got a book of Sherlock Holmes Cthulhu Mythos crossover stories.
I'm so sorry. That's not a good book.
It's not. No.
No.
I like one or two of the stories because they've got a real pulp thing, but yeah, it's a bad book. And I don't need glasses anymore.
Oh, really? He's
the
brain in
glasses
the jar.
run the little eyeball machine. That'd be brilliant.
You notice how he's got like the ultimate jar, which his brain is in as well. It's not like the little shitty ones everybody else is in. It's like his is in a full-on containment unit.
Jar deluxe.
Yeah, man.
Prison jar.
Yeah. That jar actually reminds me a bit of the container that they had Blanca in Street Fighter, the movie. I don't know why, it just kind of looks a bit like that to me.
If this was in colour, his face would be green there.
Yeah, oh man, that'd be good. Yes, please.
I've just discovered a very interesting thing here. In 1928, Lovecraft took a trip through rural Vermont with a man called Arthur Goodenough? I think that's pronounced good enough. During his jaunt, he met a local farmer with a name that bears a striking resemblance to the ill-fated Bert G. Akeley. Christ almighty, this is really written badly. I'm going to move away from this website. Just because everything I've read from it, I've had to stop and reread it again going, hang on. That's really badly written. Anyhow.
Another run at this.
No. So, that's the film anyhow. So, I would like some thoughts, please. I'll start with Andy.
No.
Alright, then I'll start with Colin.
Yes.
And there's your thoughts,
agreeable.
folks. Night, everybody. So, how does this stand up in your eyes?
Mine or his?
Yeah, I was confused as well.
I was just going to wait to see who answered, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Well, go on, Colin, since you're the guest.
All right. I think a lot of the stuff I've already said. It's an incredible achievement for such a cheap film. It does an excellent job of doing what they set out to do, of invoking that old style of filmmaking, and not just by putting a crappy sepia filter on or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very smart that they played it very straight, and I love the fact that they've used old film tricks of, just standard stuff that should be in all films. Clever positioning of stuff within a frame, and setting things up just through the camera angle and the shot. I do think that the last act it feels bolted on, it feels rushed, and it feels like it's a real departure from what's come before it. That said, I'm not sure if I was given this how I would choose to end that particular story. It kind of feels a bit like the problem I have with a lot of Lovecraft property is it's almost like there's this need to modernize or Hollywoodize it a bit. It's like, for example, no, Arkham Horror. Arkham Horror is a board game, a cooperative board game, and it's set in the same time period, but there's a lot of emphasis on combat and that kind of thing. It's a very close to the role playing game, so that in the game it is entirely possible to shotgun to death a flipping Shoggoth or something like that, which it's so off from the accuracy of Lovecraft, even though it's not really off theme. But it feels like there's always this sort of want of people to cram more of the way of sort of action or sort of more of the sort of modern kind of story into these tales, which to me just kind of doesn't work. And in that I know they set it up from the start of the film where they do talk about how he has flown a plane before and stuff like that, but it felt a bit too much like, okay, now we've got a child to look after, but she's actually going to help him, and we've got, he's going to escape in a plane, and he stops the evil cultists from opening a gate to another world, and it all just kind of feels a bit too modern. It doesn't feel like it fits with the style of story. Everything up to that point, I'm actually pretty impressed with, to be honest. I like it a lot.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't disagree with your points. I hadn't thought of how much the third act feels bolted on until you mentioned it. So you've ruined the film for me. Thank you.
Yes.
You bastard. Andy, your thoughts?
Well, since I'm not a Lovecraft reader or reader of books in general, because I'm simple that way. That's why I live on a farm and they call me Simple Andy, and they put a dog collar on me, and they throw pennies at me in the street saying, "Oh, look at Simple Andy. Look at him dance." As tears run down my face. The little sign says, "Poor Andy, he cannot read. Please give him pennies."
At least you think it does. You can't read it.
Exactly. It's all backwards E's and whatnot. But for me, I really enjoyed this movie. I like how different it is, because I haven't seen a huge amount of old kind of films. It's nice to... because so many of the movies we see nowadays are shot obviously in this, I guess, newer way and, much more elaborate way. It's kind of nice to go back to the way this film looks. It's visually nice to see something different on the eyes. The end sequence doesn't really bother me at all, but maybe that's because I hadn't read the book and didn't know what the true, in quotations, true ending was. Yeah, completely agree. Maybe a bit forced on, but I felt it was acceptable. It did what it had to do and made it feel like a movie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Rather than something you'd see on the Sci-Fi Channel.
And like we said before, the original ending really is a bit of a... It's kind of the Lovecraft sort of cut and paste thing where you kind of get the... I've got to this point in the story, the rest is condensed, but this is the thing that made me go nuts kind of thing. It's not a great ending in itself.
Yeah, and there wasn't much to make him go nuts from the sounds of things from that story. So there are a lot more elements here to perhaps drive him over the edge and accept being a little brain in a jar at this point. Seeing a young girl drop to her death probably isn't going to make you feel too good, and then resigning yourself to suicide, and then to find yourself in a little jar, you probably just go, "Yeah, well, fuck it, I don't care anymore. I'm a brain in a jar. What am I going to do? Glare at people when people plug me in, I guess."
Angry face. I will talk to them in an increasingly silly voice.
You could ask them to invent a machine that plugs into the brain jar that's just a mechanical fist that you can shake at them.
Or slap people. I suppose the other thing you could do is make the eye things go really crazy, just like look left and right and up and down as fast as possible. Look what I'm doing to your machine. Look how ridiculous
Change the colour to
is.
red.
Oh, yes.
Annoyed.
There you go.
Yeah, I like the idea of the slapping arm machine. It's like, just bring your face a bit closer, please. A bit closer.
Yeah, come here.
Just next to the hand.
I was thinking it was just a boot on a stick attached to a gimbal.
Oh, that could work. I'd like to see that as well. Yeah, I would say it's a good movie to go out and watch. Well, not go out and watch because it's not at the cinema, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, you stand outside and look in through the window.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't advise that because you'd be called a peeping Tom, but to each their own.
And of course, the person that you're watching on the TV set of could stand up and remove their head.
It's true.
Whoa.
Ooh.
I'll see them giving head. There we go, back to penis jokes.
Yeah, well done, lad.
Thank you.
Well done.
Someone had to bring it back to dicks.
Someone had to bring it back to dicks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay then. Well, I think this can only go uphill from there, so we'll shut it down for tonight. But before we go, Mr. Collins, sir.
Yes.
Would you like to tell the lovely people at home that now they have listened to your dulcet tones, they wish to know more about you and would like to follow you in some kind of stalkerish way that only the internet can provide?
Yeah, that makes sense.
In other words, where can people find you?
People can find me at youtube.com/cardcoregamer, which is my board games website, board games video series, and on Twitter, which is either at Mattersmasher or at cardcoregamer.
Yes, I'm only following the one.
There's two of me.
You some bitch, Gruff.
So I can argue with myself.
I demand you do this. I demand to see this happen. Oh yeah, I still need to write a Lovecraftian tweet, don't I?
Yep.
Oh, I shall do that at some point. Keep your eyes open. Andy.
Yes?
People probably know this off by heart by now, but I want you to tell them anyway. Where can they find you? Is it in the basement?
It might be. I do have a quick question. Did you give your thoughts on this movie?
I don't know. Did I? No, I didn't.
No, I thought we just went straight on, and I was like, I don't think Gruff said what he thought of the movie.
I'm an idiot. I love this movie. I think it's great. I think
even though Colin ruined it for you.
You bastard.
It's what I do.
Oh, I'm going to send a stabby Scotsman at you.
Matter Smasher, more like Dream Smasher.
Yeah.
Thanks, Colin.
Hardcore gamer, more like shithead. No, I do. I really like this movie. I like the atmosphere of it. It reminds me in a lot of ways of The House on Haunted Hill, the old Vincent Price movie.
Not the newer one. The one that's amazing.
Fuck your eyes. Which is one of my favourite horror films of all time. The atmosphere makes it the horror film. It makes everything a lot worse than it would have been if it had been brightly lit. What amazes me about this is that they can get that level of atmosphere and that level of detail through on such a limited budget. I find that absolutely incredible. And to be honest, I think these guys need to be giving out talks on how to make a movie. You hear that, Bay?
No, Bay doesn't give a shit. Bay doesn't give a shit, though, because he makes money and he lies on a bed of dead ladies.
He probably does. Bastard, that's my dream. All in all, I love this film. If I was going to give it a rating of tentacles, I would give it a good 7 out of 10 tentacles. You know, I recommend seeing it. I recommend seeing it big time.
Wow. That's a lot of tentacles in one person.
Yeah. Well, we've seen Dagon. We know how many tentacles they can fit. Hang on, what?
Jesus.
So, with that, we're going to close this down. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you another time. And thank you very much for coming on, Colin.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Night, folks.
Bye.